You've been told that being alone is a problem, that if you're by yourself too much, something must be wrong. But that's not the truth. There's a massive difference between loneliness and solitude, and once you learn this difference, your whole life will change. Loneliness is that ache in your chest, the feeling that you're missing something or someone. It feels like an emptiness that won't go away. It's passive. It's when you're sitting there hoping someone calls, texts, notices you, or invites you. It's waiting for the world to show up and fix how you feel inside. But solitude? Solitude is power. It's intentional. It's when you choose to spend time with yourself, not because you've given up on people, but because you understand that time alone is where real transformation happens. Solitude is the space where you meet yourself, grow yourself, and learn to love yourself. You don't need to fear being alone. You need to learn how to use it. See, the problem is that we confuse activity with connection. You could be in a room full of people and still feel completely alone. You could be in a relationship and feel more invisible than ever. Loneliness doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being disconnected from yourself. Solitude, on the other hand, is about getting reconnected. It's about shutting off the noise long enough to hear your own voice again. Now let me be real with you. This isn't easy at first. You might feel uncomfortable. You might feel like you're doing something wrong. You're not. You're just not used to it. We're not taught how to be with ourselves. We're taught how to perform, to please, to blend in, to stay busy. But learning to be happy alone means choosing to break that conditioning. It means slowing down, getting quiet, and facing the parts of yourself you've been avoiding by constantly being surrounded by other people or distractions. And here's the breakthrough. When you start to lean into solitude instead of running from it, you stop needing everyone else to fill your cup. You become the source. That means you're not chasing relationships to feel enough. You already are enough. You're not constantly posting, scrolling, or people-pleasing to feel seen. You've already seen yourself. You've already validated your own worth. You can read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, attend all the seminars, but until you learn how to be okay sitting in a room by yourself, without numbing, without reaching for your phone, without feeling like you're missing out, you haven't really done the work. That's the real test. That's where happiness starts, when your own company becomes enough. You start small. You take yourself out to lunch. You sit in silence for 5 minutes. You take a walk with no music, just your thoughts. And yeah, it might feel weird at first, but the more you do it, the more you'll start to notice things. Like your preferences, your thoughts, your patterns, you'll begin to feel more grounded, more in control, more present. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You start showing up as you, not who the world told you to be. Solitude teaches you emotional independence. And that's the key. Because once you've built that, no one can take it from you. You can be in a crowd or completely alone and still feel whole. That's the power of solitude. That's the gift of choosing to be with yourself. You don't need to be afraid of being alone. You need to reclaim it. Make solitude your strength. Use it to understand who you are, what you want, and where you're going. Because when you know how to be happy alone, you'll never settle for halfway love. You'll never attach your self-worth to someone else's attention. You'll stop chasing validation and start living from a place of purpose and power. So the next time you're alone, don't reach for your phone. Don't numb out. Don't panic. Sit with it. Lean in. That silence, that stillness, that's where your real life begins. Your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you will ever have, and yet it's the one we neglect the most. We spend years trying to make other people happy, trying to be liked, trying to fit in. We bend ourselves into versions that look good on the outside but feel empty on the inside. And then when we're alone, when the noise dies down, we don't even know who we are without all that performing. That's the moment when the truth shows up. If you don't like being with yourself, you're going to struggle in every other part of your life. Think about it. If you talk to yourself like a critic, if you doubt yourself every time you have an idea, if you constantly compare yourself to others and pick yourself apart, how in the world are you supposed to feel confident? How are you supposed to build real happiness when your own mind has become a battlefield? You can't. And this is where most people get stuck. They think happiness comes from other people loving them. supporting them, choosing them. But here's the truth. Other people can only meet you as deeply as you've met yourself. When you start to actually build a better relationship with yourself, when you start speaking to yourself with kindness, showing up for yourself with discipline, treating yourself with respect, everything changes. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop tolerating situations that drain you. You raise your standards, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you finally understand your worth, and that understanding doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. You have to start showing up for yourself the way you wish other people would. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to be proud of yourself. Stop waiting for someone to notice your effort. You notice it. You celebrate it. You validate it. That's where self-respect comes from. It's built in those small, private moments when no one's watching and you choose to keep going anyway. Being alone is not a punishment. It's an opportunity. It's the space where you can finally tune in and pay attention to your needs, your dreams, your boundaries. It's where you start learning what you actually want out of life, instead of just going along with what everyone else wants. And here's the deal. The better your relationship with yourself, the better your relationships with others will become. Why? Because you're no longer desperate. You're not entering connections out of fear or loneliness. You're not settling. You're not shrinking yourself to be accepted. You're showing up as your full self, and that is magnetic. But this kind of self-relationship doesn't happen overnight. You build it. You build it every time you keep a promise to yourself. You build it every time you stop talking down to yourself. You build it every time you push through fear and try something new. You build it every time you forgive yourself instead of beating yourself up. These are the bricks that form the foundation of self-trust, and that foundation is what holds your entire life together. And I get it. Maybe you've been through things that made you question your worth. Maybe someone hurt you, left you, rejected you, and now you carry those wounds like proof that you're not enough. But let me tell you something. Their behavior is not your truth. Their rejection is not your identity. The past may have shaped you, but it does not define you. You get to decide how this story goes. It means that instead of begging for attention, you give yourself the attention you deserve. Instead of needing constant reassurance, you start to trust yourself. And when you do that, when you finally learn to love your own company, you become unstoppable. Because now, you're no longer looking for someone to complete you. You are already whole. You're not desperate for connection. You choose it. And that kind of power, that's what real happiness looks like. It's quiet, it's confident, and it always starts with you. Most people don't realize how much of their happiness is tied to other people's opinions. We're trained to look outside ourselves for validation from the time we're kids. Think about it. You got praised when you followed the rules, smiled when people told you to, and performed in ways that made others comfortable. You were taught to care about what others think, to seek approval, to be liked. And without even realizing it, you start living for the applause instead of your own peace. You measure your worth based on someone else's reaction. But here's the truth. If your happiness depends on other people's approval, you will never feel truly free. Because here's what happens. You keep adjusting yourself to meet everyone else's expectations. You filter your words so you don't upset anyone. You shrink your dreams so you don't seem too much. You wait for someone to tell you you're doing a good job before you allow yourself to feel proud. And that's exhausting. You're constantly performing, constantly seeking, constantly wondering, do they like me? Did I say the right thing? Am I enough? That mental loop never stops until you stop it. And you stop it by realizing that external validation is temporary and it's addictive. The likes, the compliments, the approval. It feels good in the moment, but it fades fast. And when it's gone, you're left chasing the next fix. It's just like any other dependency. You don't feel steady because your sense of worth is in someone else's hands. One negative comment can ruin your day. One look of disapproval can make you question yourself. That's not happiness. That's emotional slavery. You want to be free. You want to be free. Then you need to start validating yourself. You need to stop waiting for someone to tell you you're enough and start deciding that for yourself. That means taking ownership of your thoughts. It means learning to talk to yourself with the same kindness and support you give to your best friend. It means recognizing your own effort even when no one claps. Self-validation is not arrogance. It's not pretending you have it all figured out. It's about acknowledging your growth, honoring your boundaries, and trusting your own voice. It's standing in front of the mirror and saying, "I'm proud of the way I handled that," even if no one else noticed. It's finishing a small task and celebrating your consistency. It's feeling sad and not judging yourself for it. It's being honest about who you are, even when it's messy. You build this skill by catching the moments when you're seeking approval and consciously shifting. Ask yourself, what am I really looking for right now? Why does their opinion matter more than mine? What would I say to myself if I truly believed I was enough? And then say it out loud. Practice it. Because you've been practicing self-doubt your whole life. And now it's time to practice self-respect. When you stop needing everyone else to tell you who you are, something powerful happens. You start showing up more authentically. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's highlight reel. You stop apologizing for wanting what you want. That's when happiness becomes real, because it's not tied to the shifting moods and opinions of the people around you. It's coming from you, and that means you control it. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean you ignore feedback or isolate yourself. It means you become the primary source of your own validation. You still connect. You still care. But you stop needing it to feel okay. That shift, right there, is what emotional independence looks like. You want to be happy alone? Then stop outsourcing your self-worth. Stop trying to be perfect to win love. Start being real to earn your own. It's not always easy, especially if you've built your whole identity around what others think. But it's necessary if you want freedom. You are allowed to validate your own journey. You are allowed to be proud of yourself. You are allowed to say, "I matter," without waiting for someone else to agree. That's where peace lives. That's where confidence is built. And that's how you become truly happy, even when you're alone, because now you're not empty. You're enough. Most people go through life never really knowing who they are. They get so caught up in roles, student, partner, parent, employee, that they forget there's a person underneath all of that. And when you finally find yourself alone, when the distractions fall away, there's this uncomfortable silence. You don't know what to do with it. That silence, that's the sound of opportunity. That's the classroom of self-discovery calling you in. And if you're brave enough to sit in it, you will learn more about yourself than any relationship, job, or title ever could teach you. Self-discovery doesn't happen by accident. It's not something you find one day on a walk. It's something you create through intentional effort. It starts when you stop trying to escape your thoughts and start paying attention to them. You start noticing your patterns, why you react a certain way, why certain people trigger you, what lights you up, what drains you. You start getting curious instead of critical. And when you do that, you begin to unlock the pieces of yourself that have been buried under years of noise and expectation. One of the most powerful things you can do when you're alone is to journal. I'm not talking about writing perfect essays or documenting every detail of your day. I'm talking about getting honest. Ask yourself questions you've been avoiding. What am I afraid of? What do I want that I'm too scared to say out loud? Where do I feel stuck and why? What part of me have I been hiding to make other people comfortable? That kind of writing, it's not pretty. It's not polished, but it's real. When you're always around others, you tend to conform. You compromise. But when you're alone, you have a chance to ask, what do I actually like? What do I believe in? What makes me feel alive? Every time you follow that curiosity, you're gathering data about who you are and who you're becoming. Another part of self-discovery is learning to sit with your emotions instead of avoiding them. We are so quick to numb. We binge shows, scroll endlessly, dive into work, eat, drink, anything to avoid the discomfort. But here's the truth. Emotions are messengers. They are trying to teach you something. Loneliness might be telling you to reconnect with yourself. Anger might be pointing to a boundary that was crossed. Sadness might be reminding you of what matters most. When you stop running from those emotions and start listening, you start learning. You start healing. You grow. You also begin to notice your values. What matters to you, not what your parents taught you, not what society says should matter, but what genuinely feels right to you. Is it freedom, honesty, creativity, service? Once you identify your core values, you can start making decisions that align with them. That's when life starts to feel more fulfilling. Not because everything is perfect, but because it finally feels true to you. And look, this journey isn't linear. You don't just sit alone one weekend and suddenly discover your life's purpose. It takes time. It takes repetition. It takes discomfort. It takes discomfort. But the longer you stay in it, the clearer things become. You stop needing to be busy all the time. You stop fearing quiet moments. You actually start craving them because you know that's when you reconnect with yourself. When you learn to use solitude as a space for self-discovery, you stop being afraid of being alone. You start realizing that this is your time to become who you were meant to be, not for anyone else, but for you. You stop relying on people or circumstances to define you. You define yourself. And here's what's beautiful about that. The more you know yourself, the more powerful your life becomes. You make better choices. You form healthier relationships. You walk into rooms with confidence, not because you're pretending to have it all together, but because you're grounded in who you are. And no one can take that away from you. Self-discovery isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And solitude, that's where it begins. So don't waste your alone time trying to fill the silence. Use it. Lean into it, because everything you're searching for, clarity, confidence, purpose, it's already inside you. You just need to be quiet long enough to hear it. Most people underestimate the power of routine. When you're alone, and especially when you're trying to find happiness on your own, structure isn't just helpful, it's essential. Because here's the truth. Without a routine, your mind will drift. It will spiral into overthinking, self-doubt, and negative patterns. You'll wake up feeling aimless, and you'll go to bed feeling like you wasted the day. But when you have structure, when you have something to show up for every single day, you begin to take back control. You stop waiting for someone else to give your life meaning, because now you're giving it to yourself. And when you're alone, it's easy to feel like nothing matters. There's no one to impress, no plans, no deadlines. And in that space, your mind can play tricks on you. It'll tell you you're falling behind, that you're missing out, that everyone else has it figured out. That's why building a solid daily routine isn't just about productivity. It's about self-respect. It's about showing yourself that your time, your energy, and your growth matter, even when no one's watching. Start simple. Wake up at the same time every day. Make your bed, move your body, eat something nourishing, set a goal, even a small one, and get it done. These things might seem basic, but they create momentum, and momentum creates confidence. You start proving to yourself that you can count on you. That's where self-trust comes from. Not from motivation, but from repetition, from the daily decision to show up. When you're alone, you have a unique opportunity. You're not being pulled in 1,000 directions. You're not navigating someone else's schedule. You have the space to choose what matters to you, what habits energize you, what drains you. Use this time to experiment. Try journaling every morning. Read for 30 minutes a day. Take a walk without your phone. Schedule time to work on something that excites you. These aren't just filler activities. They're tools that build resilience, discipline, and clarity. And here's the thing about routine. It doesn't just keep you busy. It gives you purpose. It gives you rhythm. It creates a sense of progress. And progress is what fuels happiness. You don't need to make massive leaps. You just need to stack small wins. Maybe today your win is drinking more water. Maybe it's cleaning your space. Maybe it's not snoozing your alarm. These little victories compound. Over time, they rewire your brain. You start to associate being alone with growth instead of stagnation. You start to feel proud of how you're spending your time instead of ashamed. Let's also talk about how routine builds emotional stability. When life gets chaotic, and it will, a solid routine keeps you grounded. It's your anchor. It's what reminds you that even when things feel uncertain, there are parts of your day you can control. That kind of consistency helps regulate your mood, your energy, and your mindset. You're not just reacting to the day, you're leading it. And when you feel in control, happiness doesn't feel like a distant goal. It feels like something you're actively creating. Now, I'm not saying your routine has to be perfect. Life happens. Plans shift. You'll have off days. That's okay. This isn't about being rigid or robotic. It's about showing yourself that you matter enough to be taken care of. That even when it's just you, you're still worth the effort. That's a powerful shift. Because once you learn how to care for yourself consistently, you stop needing someone else to do it for you. You stop waiting for someone to save you, motivate you, or organize your life. You realize you are capable. You are enough. You can do this. Being happy alone isn't about distracting yourself 24/7. It's about designing a life that reflects your values, and routine is how you do that. It's how you take your ideals and turn them into actions. It's how you build a lifestyle that supports the person you want to become. Not someday, not when someone else shows up, but right now. So if you're alone, don't waste that time drifting. Start building, build habits, build discipline. Build momentum, because every time you show up for yourself, you're sending a message to your brain. I'm worth the effort. I'm in control. I've got this. And that message, that's what happiness is built on. Not circumstance, not other people, but daily, deliberate action, just between you and you. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing, but most people confuse them. Loneliness feels like something's missing. It's a void, a hunger for connection, for understanding, for companionship. But solitude is intentional. It's powerful. It's a choice to be with yourself. Not because there's no one else, but because you've realized the value of your own presence. The challenge is learning how to move from loneliness into solitude, transforming that empty space into a sanctuary instead of a prison. The truth is, most of us fear being alone because we associate it with rejection. If we're not surrounded by people, if no one is texting us back, if there's no one asking us to hang out, we immediately start wondering what's wrong with us. Our self-worth takes a hit. But here's what no one tells you. Just because you're alone doesn't mean you're unworthy. And just because you're not in constant company doesn't mean you're not loved. Being alone is a circumstance. Feeling lonely is a mindset, and you have the power to change that mindset. Start by shifting the way you talk about being alone. Stop using language that reinforces lack. Saying things like, I'm just by myself or I have no one makes you feel small. Instead, start framing it differently. I'm spending time with myself, or I'm learning to enjoy my own company. Words matter. The way you describe your life becomes the way you experience it. So choose words that empower you, not words that shrink you. Then take a look at the stories you're telling yourself when you feel lonely. Are you assuming that everyone else is out living their best lives while you're stuck at home? Are you replaying moments of past rejection and using them as proof that you're not enough? Catch those thoughts. Question them. Because 99% of the time, the story your brain is spinning isn't based in reality. It's based in fear, and fear is not a reliable narrator. To move from loneliness to solitude, you need to start creating experiences that reinforce the value of your alone time. Don't just sit in silence and scroll your phone while telling yourself you're spending time alone. That's not solitude, that's distraction. Solitude is about being present with yourself. It's about being fully engaged in the moment, even if that moment is just drinking your coffee slowly or sitting on your porch listening to the wind. When you become present, your sense of lack begins to fade. You start to realize that peace was available all along. You were just too distracted to feel. Another powerful way to move out of loneliness is to develop rituals, not routines. Rituals, things you do with intention, things that feel sacred. Light a candle while you read. Play your favorite music while you cook dinner. Dress up even if you're not going anywhere. These rituals create a sense of care. They say to your nervous system, I'm safe, I'm okay, I matter. Over time, these small acts of self-honoring start to rewire your brain. You stop seeing time alone as empty. You start seeing it as full of possibility. And let's not ignore the deeper emotional work. Sometimes loneliness is your soul's way of saying, hey, there's something you haven't dealt with yet. Maybe you're still holding on to a past relationship. Maybe you've been avoiding the grief of something you lost. Maybe you've been keeping busy, so you don't have to feel the truth of what's going on inside. Solitude gives you space to feel all of it. And while that might sound overwhelming, it's actually freeing. Because when you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you begin to heal. You also build emotional independence. You learn that your worth doesn't depend on who texts you back. that you can enjoy a sunset, a movie, a meal, or a walk without needing someone else to validate the experience. And that independence, that's the foundation of inner strength. Because when you know how to hold space for yourself, you stop fearing abandonment. You stop settling for half-hearted relationships just to fill the silence. You start choosing people who add to your life, not complete it. The shift from loneliness to solitude is a journey. It requires patience, practice, and a willingness to sit with yourself even when it's uncomfortable. But the reward is profound. You start to see that you are not empty, you are not lacking. You are not alone. You are with yourself. And when you learn to truly be with yourself, to enjoy your own company, to find peace in your own presence, then you are free. There's a moment that comes when you've spent enough time alone. Not just being alone, but really being with yourself. When you begin to understand something most people never grasp, you don't need someone else to complete you. You are whole. That doesn't mean you don't want connection or love or community. Of course you do. We're wired for that. But there's a difference between wanting connection and needing it to feel okay. When you learn to enjoy your own company, to fill your own cup, to create joy and peace from within, you take back your power. You stop outsourcing your happiness, and that's when you become truly free. See, what often happens is that we go into relationships hoping someone else will fix what feels broken in us. We think if I find the right partner, I'll feel secure. If I have more friends, I'll feel loved. If I'm part of the right group, I'll feel like I belong. But the problem is, when you go into any relationship from a place of neediness, from emptiness, from lack, you set yourself up for disappointment. No one can be your everything. No one can fill the void that only you are meant to fill. That's your job. Being happy alone teaches you how to do that. It teaches you how to self-soothe when you're anxious, how to sit with uncomfortable emotions without immediately seeking distraction, how to create fun, excitement, and joy without depending on someone else to bring it to your life. And the more you practice that, the stronger you become. You begin to realize that solitude isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's the foundation that makes healthy connection possible. Because here's the thing, once you're good with yourself, once you genuinely enjoy your own company, your standards rise. You stop tolerating relationships that drain you. You stop engaging in conversations that don't align with your values. You stop bending to fit into spaces you've outgrown. You don't do it out of arrogance. You do it out of self-respect because you've built something beautiful with yourself, and you're not willing to give that up for just anyone. That's the power of being happy alone. It makes you incredibly discerning about who you allow into your life. You also begin to show up differently in the world. You're no longer desperate to be liked. You don't need constant reassurance. You walk into rooms with quiet confidence because your worth isn't up for debate anymore. You're not performing. You're not pretending. You're not trying to be what someone else wants. You're just being you. And that kind of energy, it's magnetic. People feel it. They respect it because it's rare. And let's not forget, when you're happy alone, you're more available for real connection, not surface level stuff. Not relationships based on codependence, but deep, grounded, mutual relationships where two people choose each other. Not because they need to, but because they want to. You bring your whole self to the table, and so do they. And that kind of connection, that's where love thrives. That's where friendship becomes family. That's where community becomes home. But none of that can happen if you skip this part. If you rush through your alone time just to get to the next chapter, you miss the point. This season of solitude, it's where the transformation happens. It's where you learn to listen to your intuition, where you figure out what you actually want out of life, not what your parents want, not what your friends expect, but you. It's where you start to create a life that feels like yours. So don't fear being alone. Embrace it, use it, let it shape you. Because the person who emerges on the other side, they are strong, they are self-aware, they are joyful. And most importantly, they are whole. Wholeness doesn't mean you don't want connection. It just means you're not dependent on it. You've learned to generate your own peace, your own joy, your own fulfillment. And when you can do that, you become unstoppable. You don't have to wait for someone else to show up in your life to start feeling complete. You don't have to keep chasing something outside of yourself. Everything you've been searching for, it's already in you right now. So stop